Okay, this is the last part of 11.4 special factoring techniques, and we get into these things called sum of cubes or difference of cubes. And I've written the formulas on the note sheet for you, and you're more than welcome to use those formulas when you take the test, but check with your instructor if they're allowing you to use those formulas. We'll look at the first two here. You might want to remember that there's some numbers called perfect cubes, and you can derive your perfect cubes by taking a number and cubing it. So if you take 1 cubed, you get 1, and 2 cubed is 8, and 3 cubed, which is 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, and then 4 cubed is 64. 5 cubed is 125, and so you start to recognize these numbers. You might want to study the list of perfect cubes or have a list of perfect cubes easily available to you. So looking at this, I see two terms, and I see the 64, which is a perfect cube, and the 27, which is a perfect cube, and the plus sign here, so that's the sum of two cubes because of the plus sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about what times itself 3 times yields 64x cubed. Okay, so what times itself 3 times yields 64x cubed? We have 4x, 4x, and 4x. So this is going to be my a value in my formula. Then I think about, okay, well, what times itself 3 times would equal 27, and it ends up being 3. So this is going to be my b value. Okay, my 3 doesn't look too good here. All right, but I have my a value and b value, and now I'm going to plug them into this part of the formula. So if I put it, thinking about putting in for a here, I have 4x, then putting in the plus sign, and then b is 3. There's my first parenthesis. Okay. Then my second parenthesis, I have to square the a value. You want to be a little careful here. You have to square 4x, and so you want to have 16x squared here. That comes from 4x times 4x. Then the middle term, we use a minus sign because of the formula, and the middle term is made by multiplying these two together. So they're already stacked on top of each other. I just multiply them and get 12x. And then the last term, the b squared, comes from squaring whatever value b is. So 3 squared is 9. Okay, and that's the factoring of the sum of cubes. Okay, so let's look at b here and do it similarly. So I think about, okay, 27y to the third, what times what times what equals 27y to the third? Well, that's 3y. Okay, and then I look at my 8 and I'm like, okay, 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. This is going to be my a value. This is going to be my b value for my formula. Then here is the formula we're using because it's the difference, okay, difference of cubes because of the minus sign. So I do a minus b. Well, let's see, 3y minus 2. There's my a value, my b value. Then I have the second parenthesis, which has 3 terms in it. It's going to be a squared. So 3y squared is 9y squared. So you have to be a little careful there. You got to take 3y times 3y. Okay. Then I have a plus sign, and then it's a times b, which is these two multiplied together, 6y. And then last here is going to be this b value squared, which is 4. Okay. Now you know, you could multiply this out to check your answer and see that you get this, and I promise it's going to work. You might want to do that just one time to see the check. I always tell students maybe just to take this 3y times 9y squared, you can see the 27y to the third. And when you take this negative 2 times this 4 here, you can see the negative 8. All right. Well, let's finish these off here in this video. It might get a little long, but we should be able to crank through these here. So looking at C here, another way some students do this is they say, well, this is 5x squared, 5x squared, 5x squared. So there's your A value. Okay. And then this is y times y times y. So this is your B value. All right. This is the sum of squares. So remember, with the sum of squares, we're going to use a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. I just wrote the formula down so we have it in front of us here. And so I'm going to put my a value in of 5x squared plus y. I'm going to square my a value. Be careful again, 25x to the fourth. Remember that 25x to the fourth comes from 5x squared times 5x squared. That's where that comes from. Then I multiply my a and b term together, so I have minus 5x squared y. That's from multiplying this together with this. The signs are determined by the formula. And then my last term is plus, and whatever my b value is squared. So y squared. Okay. And that's it. All right, let's take a look at this last one here. There's a hint here. It says factor out a GCF first. If we pull the 3 out of this, we have 27x to the third minus 8. And that is very similar to the one above it. If you look above here, we already factored 27y to the third minus 8. Now we're factoring just a different variable here, and we have our greatest common factor. Okay, so doing that, we already know that the 3 is going to be up front. We have 2 terms in this parenthesis, and then 3 terms in the second parenthesis, so I write a little larger parenthesis. And I'm going to have, looking at my previous answer here, I'm going to have, and you wouldn't have to look at your previous answer, but we've already worked one of these out. We have 3x minus 2, 9x squared plus 6x plus 4. Okay, you see how it's similar to the one before it. Okay, so hopefully that gives you enough to practice. I'll also try to find another video maybe to put in the playlist, but you could search on YouTube for factoring the sum of cubes or the difference of cubes. All right, that wraps up 11.4. We don't have any videos on 11.5, and the next section will be 11.6. Thanks.